If it's under warranty, it should be paid by the manufacturer. If somebody is charging you for something that should be under warranty, you may want to go to your owner's manual and call the number of the help desk in your owner's manual and say, hey, dealer's charging me for this.
Right.
I was understanding it should be under warranty. Calibrating vehicles is time consuming, space consuming, educating consuming, expensive equipment.
Yeah.
There is a lot to it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Airing of Grievances. My name is Reamer. That's Robert Grieve, and we are ever so happy that you are here today. Now, if this is your first time joining us, we want to say a special thank you and welcome for joining us. We appreciate you visiting the channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, we're going to give you a reason to do that, but you could do it now if you want to. That's a good idea.
Please.
Yeah. And of course, after you subscribe, don't forget to give us a big thumbs up if you see something that is valuable or helpful to you or those that you know.
Do it now.
Yeah, that's right. This series is specifically designed to help the consumer, the driving public, and we've got a good one for you today. You want to stay all the way to the end because there's something cool coming at the end. That's always his takeaways from this whole thing. And we appreciate you very, very much. So, Robert, happy Saturday to you.
To you, my dear friends. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate you so very much, especially our regulars. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. So this week, you asked me if I wanted to join you for a webinar that was very interesting.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about the webinar, their findings, and
what it means to you,
and what it means to us,
everybody.
Right,
everybody.
So, let's start with who put out the seminar or the webinar, and why are we even looking at this?
Oh, well, AirPro put out the webinar.
Okay,
and it was they hosted it, but it was the IIHS that was reviewing a report and their findings.
Yes.
On vehicles repaired that have ADAS.
That's the Advanced Driver Assist Safety.
Yep.
Yeah.
So your cameras and pre-collision and backup sensors and cameras, auto braking, auto steering.
Even the blind spot monitors.
Blind spot monitoring, all of that.
Okay.
So they did a study on basically what happens after you've been in an accident or had a windshield replaced and what their findings are.
Okay.
But first, IIHS. We've mentioned them before. And that is the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety.
Okay.
And their first slide said the IIHS is an independent, non-profit, scientific, and educational organization dedicated to reducing the losses, deaths, injuries, and property damage from motor vehicle crashes.
Sure.
So you know who they are.
Okay.
And they had put this study together. I don't know if they just released it or...
It's the February 2023 report.
Okay.
And this is a research paper that they put out every year. And this one, in fact, I'll put a link to the report here where you can just literally click on it and download. It's 29 pages, but yeah, it's an annual report.
It's educational. So their initial paragraph here is when a vehicle has repairs done to areas where these features, sensors or cameras are located, e.g. bumpers or windshields, they often require calibrating as part of the repair process, even if the feature themselves are undamaged.
You used a word there that caught my attention. You said these things are often requiring calibrations.
Yes.
I am not the brightest bulb in the knife drawer here. But if I follow along with many of the things that we talk about here on this channel and in the series of the airing of grievances, which is now in a playlist, by the way, you can check that out after we're done here. Often is the wrong word. I'm pretty sure if there's anything done to repair any of these technologies, there should always be a scan and recalibration.
Yeah, well, there should be. And again, it depends on what was repaired.
Okay.
You know, did we replace the bumper? Did we repair the bumper? Did any repair work get involved in sensors?
Did we have to
Did we have to
disconnect
take
the battery?
them? All of that.
Yeah.
There's lots of reasons, and that's why you have to go to the OEM to find out what needs to be done and in what case it needs to be done.
The OEM stands for the original equipment manufacturer.
Yep.
Those are the people that made your car.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a second.
Okay.
But, so the IIHS is recognizing here that if repairs are needed, that they will often require recalibrating as part of the repair process, even if the features themselves are undamaged. So an example of that, you have to disconnect or reconnect the battery.
Sure.
That may cause in some vehicles a recalibration. Might only need reinitializations, but there might be some recalibrations
Okay.
depending on the vehicle and the technology.
Right.
But if you take a bumper off a vehicle and put it back on in order to access something else, even though none of those sensors have been damaged in that process, they may need to be recalibrated,
They have to be,
depending on what system it is, what vehicle it is, and what the manufacturer says.
they might need to be disconnected to remove the bumper, right?
Absolutely,
And
they'd
if
be
you,
disconnected.
If you put another one on, they have to be reconnected, and some require angle calibrations.
Yes, there's plenty of those going on out there, and they're acknowledging, and keep in mind, nothing was damaged in those scenarios.
Yeah.
But calibrations are still needed, and people need to go through the processes of looking up these procedures and equipment in the OEM or manufacturer's website.
Sure.
And that's just, so IIHS is pointing that out clearly,
Okay.
that it needs to be done.
Yep.
Well, they say oftentimes, but it needs to be done. Most times.
We find ourselves often agreeing with that sentence.
Yeah. So in their next paragraph, they talk about manufacturers specify the repair processes, but those processes typically cost more than the repairer or the insurer are prepared for. Calibrating vehicles is time-consuming, space-consuming, educating-consuming, expensive equipment.
Yeah.
There is a lot to it, and it
Sure.
costs more than what people, including insurers, think that it should. But if they had to rent the property and pay for the equipment, and they'd be certainly looking for a return on the investment.
Sure.
It's just my opinion. And so they're acknowledging that these costs are kind of hefty in some cases.
And they're also acknowledging that the manufacturers are the ones who are making the specifications.
Yes.
Which, since they made the technology,
They're probably the right one to go back to.
Stands to reason.
Yeah. So the next paragraph, they talk about repairers, especially independent repair businesses. So in this scenario, they're talking about collision repair facilities versus dealerships. Okay. So an independent repair facility is really any body shop that isn't part of a dealership.
Got it.
Okay. That's the best I understand it.
I agree with that assessment.
So especially independent repair businesses have said that manufacturers do not provide adequate information about the repair process and how to restore full functionality to the affected features. That's what I say.
Okay. manufacturers don't provide the adequate information.
I think it's more likely people don't take the time to look it up.
There
And
it
it
is.
is cumbersome. Some of these processes are 80, 90 pages long
Yeah.
that you need to read and understand and measure and all these things.
And even if you go one paragraph above that we just mentioned, and that is, the manufacturers are the ones doing the specifications of what needs to be done,
Mm-hmm.
but it's costly,
It's expensive for everybody.
right?
It's expensive to put them in the cars, build the technology, test the technology, and then for us to understand what the vehicle has, what it's equipped with, what needs to be addressed.
Just because certain body shops don't want to pay for that information doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
That's my takeaway.
Yeah, and I've not found, well, first off, from my standpoint, we have a Lexus Toyota scanner factory, just like the dealership does.
Sure.
And that gives me confidence in doing the calibrations on these vehicles
Yep.
because I'm using OEM equipment. Or
You still have to look up the procedures.
still have to look up the procedures.
Sure.
And it's different. I mean, you could work on 3 of the same different car and it could be different 3 different times.
Yep.
And they're exhaustive, the procedures. With the widespread confusion around the repair processes and related information and equipment access challenges, repairers sometimes have difficulty justifying the cost of the work required to follow the repair specifications provided by the manufacturer. Insurance may also be reluctant to pay for labor or parts that do not make a practical difference to the functional performance, even if they are prescribed by the manufacturer.
If it's prescribed by the manufacturer,
And it's a safety feature that later in this report they say it's really important that these work.
right? That's the whole. That's the pivot point of the entire report.
Yeah, but insurers may be reluctant to pay. Yes, they are reluctant to pay. It's not may.
Yeah, that's like an often.
Yeah, that's close to often. If insurance or warranty coverage is insufficient, the consumer will have to bear out-of-pocket expenses for the repair. Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah, let's.
If it's under warranty, it should be paid by the manufacturer. If somebody is charging you for something that should be under warranty, you may want to go to your owner's manual and call the number of the help desk in your owner's manual and say, hey, dealer's charging me for this.
Right.
I was understanding it should be under warranty.
Should be in the paperwork in the that you signed
Right.
when you purchased the vehicle.
The other people that they mention here are the insurers.
Yep.
Okay, Mr. or Mrs. Insurer that does not want to pay. Why don't you want to pay? And where in my policy does it indicate that it's not covered?
Please show me the language in the policy for your saying no.
Yeah. So that's a problem. They go on to say, what's more, if the functionality of the crash avoidance feature is not fully restored, the safety benefits that have been ascribed to it will not be realized over the life of the equipment. Worse is the possibility that the consumers may unknowingly be put at risk when these systems are not properly repaired. So the IIHS has deducted that it's important that these systems are working properly. Now I guess the question is, who should pay? And it might be you, the consumer. And I caution you, you should not have to pay anything.
Right.
So, this is a very interesting report with lots of different conclusions.
Yeah, there are lots of conclusions.
Here was the big takeaway for me,
Okay.
and should be the big takeaway for you too. Post-repair issues. Okay, post-repair means the car's been fixed.
Yeah.
And delivered back to you.
Yep.
And you paid the bill and you're on your way. Something's going wrong. So it's a post-repair issue.
Oh,
it's like a comeback.
There's a problem.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's a comeback.
All right.
So post-repair issues, over half of respondents, over half of the respondents said that they have had to have their front crash prevention, blind spot detection, or camera repaired more than once. So that's a problem.
That's a huge problem.
So when asked about their most recent experience, most people who had repairs done due to crash damage or windshield damage or flaws said they had issues with the features afterwards. So that creates a different problem. Who's repairing these?
Right.
Is the shop repairing them? And if so, with what equipment? Is the shop sending it to the dealership like we do in many cases? Is there a problem there? This is the big takeaway, is these features need to be front and center when you need to have collision repairs. You need to find a place that will give you suitable answers to how they're going to be dealt with, how they're going to be investigated as to what my vehicle has,
Right.
what tools and equipment and education is going to be used to perform necessary calibrations. Is the shop going to do it? If so, are they using the OEM equipment to do it?
Right.
Or are they sending it to the dealer? Or are they sending it to some third party? What equipment are they using? And where are they doing it? I've seen pictures of them doing it out in the parking lot, which does not follow any procedure that I've ever recognized.
No.
I've heard all sorts of scary scenarios of who's doing it.
Just so that we don't get too far into the weeds on this, let's talk about what we do here at Nylund's. But the purpose of my asking the question and bringing it up is to help you understand. We have a building behind that wall that is dedicated to calibrations and
Initializations, all the rest of that.
All of that.
Yep,
We have a gentleman on staff.
that's all he does.
It's all he does is to pull procedures.
Research the procedures, research the car to what it has on it, what needs to be addressed.
Perform the calibration. He is certified to do so.
He's been trained. I have untold tens of thousands of dollars in training
Yeah.
because this is a new position that I'm creating,
Yes.
and had to find the different sources to get him educated on what to do, how to do it, when to do it,
Right.
how to find out what needs to be done.
What's not covered in this report is we believe that the great majority of shops that are out there do not have a guy on staff to do this, do not have the proper equipment, do not pull the proper procedures,
Do not even know it's on your car.
and subsequently, right? And subsequently, we have this massive, over 50% failure of the repair. And that is what this report is about.
Yeah, this report was driven by the fact that so many people are complaining that they've had the vehicle repaired or a windshield replaced, and their systems are not operating as designed. Whether they're
Right.
putting warning lights on, or warning lights aren't going on when they should be going on, or any of those things. And that is a big concern in fixing vehicles today.
Absolutely.
Biggest concern is for you, the consumer. And you need to really nail down, if you have, call it an 18 or newer, because 18, I think it was May of 18, vehicles built after May of 18, sold in the United States, had to have at least the rear camera.
I see.
It's grown from there, and it continues to grow today as
Yeah.
to the different features that are on there. And the new stuff we've been used to, Toyota, Lexus having certain procedures for certain scenarios.
Right.
But when we get to 2022 and 2023, now those vernaculars or system names and procedures have kind of changed.
Sure.
And we have to relearn what it is we're looking to do and what's affected, and because now they're even more intertwined
Right.
with each other. So it takes a lot to get this stuff right. And one of the things that's involved in almost every calibration is a road test to verify that everything is working as it's supposed to. So we know when it leaves here, it's ready to go. Many times that step is,
Well, and
not done.
again, this is not not covered in this report, but we talk an awful lot about the partnership between certain shops, and I'll even go so far as to say the great majority of shops that have partnerships with insurers, and in those DRP relationships, the direct repair partnerships that they have, they're pushed to get those cars through so fast that a road trip, a test drive, doesn't really fit within the timeline sometimes. And, that could be another issue that they're skipping the step for.
Well, and speaking of that, I mean, how many estimates have I talked about through these videos that, whether they're insurance driven or body shop driven,
Yeah.
do not contain pre and post scanning and calibrations?
Yeah.
If the body shop is supposed to know that the vehicle is equipped with it and what needs to be done and so on and so forth,
Right.
why isn't the insurance company in the same position?
Yeah.
They should be. That just irks me, especially with this coming from the IIHS. We don't talk about the insurers that want this equipment on the vehicles, because it saves them money. It saves them money. It saves them money.
Right.
In physical damage and personal injury and
Sure.
all the rest of that. But then on the other side, they don't want to fund properly, in many cases, not in all cases,
Right.
the restoration of these functions. And they don't even know that the car has it. But why shouldn't everybody know?
I think we should.
So the report goes on to talk about some possible explanations for these failures.
Okay.
And it says here, it has been reported that some repairers are failing to keep their calibration tools up to date with the latest software. Trying to be gentle here. If you're using OEM tools and equipment, they're going to be up to date.
They do that through the air.
Yeah, they're going to be up to date. If you're not, they may not be.
Cutting corners never helps.
So I'll just leave that at that. So they say that the repairers may be failing to keep their calibration tools up to date with the latest software. Here's the best part. They're failing to verify vehicle alignment prior to calibration. Do you know how many times an adjuster has said, we're not paying for an alignment because it wasn't hitting the wheel? You cannot calibrate a vehicle that is not aligned properly. And the steering angle sensor isn't at 0. Can't be done. They admit it right here. One of the reasons for the failure rate of more than 50% on some of the stuff is repairers are not verifying vehicle alignment prior to calibration. I find that to be very interesting. They also say repairers are failing to address pre-existing codes from the vehicle scan prior to calibrations. Wait a second. We have to scan the vehicle?
If you've
There are many insurers that deny that.
if you've just joined us, we've been advocating for pre-scans and post-scans from day one.
Yeah, from almost every video.
Yeah.
So the pre-scan, and it seems to be important now, because that could give you information that you need to know in order to calibrate the vehicle. Huh? Who knew? Anyway, they go on to say that, it's also keeping the calibration equipment fully charged and clean, or keep the vehicle and its sensors clean. Huh. Not every single insurance company, most insurance companies, especially off-the-rack insurance companies. When you go to buy the suit, you can get one off the rack or you can get a custom one.
Yeah.
This one's off the rack, sorry. The off-the-rack insurance companies will not pay to pre-wash the vehicle. They say that's a responsibility to the consumer, or it's a cost of doing business, or it's a cost of everybody other than themselves. But the IIHS here says they have to be clean.
Dirty sensors are causing the failure in some cases.
Yeah,
interesting.
I find that to be fascinating. Anyway, this is an interesting report. I think you've put a link to it there.
Yep.
The big takeaway is that you need to, if you're going to have your car fixed or a windshield replaced, you need to be extra cautious on where you take it. Some windshields, especially on some of the newer German vehicles that maybe have 360 and stuff, they actually have to be on an alignment machine and go through all sorts of stuff for a windshield replacement. Wow. Because of the camera looking through the windshield. And sometimes it's not one camera. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 cameras. Short distance, long distance, wide angle. Subaru's got
the two cameras.
2 cameras that are color cameras, looking at everything. And all of this stuff, as it progresses, which we have today, are keeping you in your lane or giving you a hard time if you're getting out of your lane.
Right.
Some beep, some actually try to steer you back in. If that thing is not calibrated properly, it may be steering you into a different lane.
That's a bad thing.
So there's just so much going on with this stuff. It's important to get your vehicle fixed by somebody that knows what they're doing, and have the plan in place on how this technology is going to be addressed. So that's what we got for today. Thank you, IIHS, for this amazing report, and AirPro for putting on the presentation.
Yeah.
And I think it's worth a read. Could be a little boring. I find a lot of it to be fascinating.
It was, for me, who, I'm the voice. I take the information in the industry and translate it to words and such that you can understand. But to me, it was very interesting, and it was validating, because the issues that they raise are things that we addressed from the very beginning in this practice here. And I know that there are others out there who are also that interested in your safety and making sure that the right repair gets done the first time.
That's it.
So, all right. Well, thank you, my friend. Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday to you. My dear friends, thanks for tuning in, and thanks for all the love. We appreciate you very much. I'll see you next Saturday. Have a great week.